everybody. Welcome to our Family and Support System chat. We're so excited that you are with us today. Today we are going to be, I am joined by Justin Li and Lindsay Blem, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Justin Li. I'm manager of student support for Pacific.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Blem. I am the interim dean of students here at Pacific.
Thank you guys so much. Oops. So a little bit of housekeeping. Please leave your sound on mute and use the chat feature to ask questions. You can either send them to everybody, or if you send them to Justin, he'll be monitoring that for questions for our presenter. So the goals for today is to give information, resources, and tips, answer any questions, just do a general check-in, and enjoy being a part of the Boxer community. And I want to thank Justin for this beautiful picture of what's going on campus right now. It's so nice to be able to still see a few things that are happening during the spring term. So I'd like to introduce our special guest, Josie Ragolia, who is our student success librarian. Josie, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Muted now. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen quickly. And I have a brief presentation for you all. And what I'm going to be talking about is basically supporting student academic needs during remote learning. So as Denise mentioned, I'm the student success librarian. So I work in our library. And so I have a couple of different areas that I'll talk about today. So again, brief introduction, I'm the student success librarian. I've been at Pacific for about 2 years. And I am in charge of a couple different areas in the library. So today I'm going to talk about tutoring at Pacific and then some other library services for student success that we have set up. And with both of those, I'm really going to be talking about what we've shifted to now that we're doing remote learning on campus, or off campus, as it were.
Josie,
yes.
What we're seeing is actually not the full slide, just the side-by-side. If you wanna, yeah, so if you want to share that again, and it's actually in your options once you share it, you can switch the screen so that we see the other one.
Okay. Does that not work?
We're still seeing the same thing.
Okay.
Now, if you go up to your view options, under
in Zoom or in PowerPoint? I'm sorry.
In Zoom.
Okay.
In Zoom. And it should allow you to switch your screen what we're seeing. Does that make sense?
No. I'm sorry, everyone. I did this the other day and it worked perfectly. I'm having some technical difficulties today, apparently.
So we're all learning so much about
I know. Oh, I've got it. I think.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Thank you for letting me know, though. I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to basically talk about some additional library services along with tutoring that we have, and again, how we've shifted those for remote learning. And then we'll just have a quick wrap up, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone has. So first I want to start by talking about tutoring at Pacific. So the center that I run is called the Center for Learning and Student Success, and it's a center that's part of our library on campus. So what we have there are peer tutors that are available to help students in a variety of ways. A couple of them that I highlighted here are just to help students develop effective learning and study strategies, and also just to help them problem solve and understand concepts from their courses. And we have a one-on-one appointment-based model for most courses. There are a couple where we have group tutoring. Students are able to make up to 2 appointments per day, no more than 3 appointments per week, but we can make additional appointments for them. So if they are working with a tutor and they express that they need additional help, we can certainly accommodate that. We do 25 and 55-minute sessions, and we have tutoring in a wide variety of subject areas. The most popular are math and science. We also have writing, which can be really helpful in world languages, and a couple of other courses. We focus kind of on the courses that students struggle with the most, so things like calculus and chemistry, again, tend to be our most used tutoring subjects, but we have kind of any course that we've had an expressed need for. And any student can access this. It's free, and our hours are available online, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about how to look at that in a moment. But first I wanted to talk about what is tutoring. And I was writing this and I was thinking, I guess for me, tutoring is, I mean, there is a definition, but it's also sometimes easier to explain what it's not. And so it's not a replacement for attending class. So tutors aren't instructors. So if your student is not attending class, obviously the tutor can't teach them everything from the course. They're trained specifically to help students become more independent learners, to learn skills that they continue to use through their education. And they're not really subject experts, though they do obviously have some subject area knowledge to share. They've done well in those courses, and they were recommended by the faculty to be a tutor. And then they can, of course, help clarify content, but they're not there to teach. And it's not a form of remediation, so it's helpful for all students. We have a number of tutors who do really well in school, who meet with each other, you know, for the subjects that they don't tutor for. So my chemistry tutor goes and sees the French tutor for help with their French homework, etc. So it really is helpful for anyone. And we really try to emphasize that. So that's just important to remember. And also just that it's not a quick fix. So, you know, it's not a way to just sort of, if you're flunking a class, to go in and get an A, but it really can be helpful for obviously raising your grades, but also just to learn those skills that you can kind of utilize ongoing through your education. So what it really is, I just told you what it wasn't. What it is really a form of peer education. So it helps students develop those kind of critical college level study and learning skills that can be really difficult to develop on your own. So we don't really learn those skills necessarily when we're in high school, at least at the college level. And for everyone is different, but for a lot of us, when we come to college, we you know, we may have done really well in high school, but the same techniques we were using in high school don't always translate to the college level. So it can be really helpful to meet with someone who has taken a course that you're in right now and maybe struggling with, and hear how they dealt with it and how they learned to learn the material and how they've struggled and, you know, kind of overcome that struggle to be able to help others learn it. And the skills that students who come to tutoring can begin to develop will really help them, again, throughout their whole education. So I like to emphasize that, just because I think, again, it can be really helpful for a specific assignment or for studying, which is, you know, what we advocate for students to use it for. But it also, at the same time, allows students to build those skills that they'll take on to the next course and the next course and the next course, which is really great. So tutoring during remote learning. Under usual circumstances, most tutoring takes place in person in the library on campus. Unfortunately, right now, that library is closed with the exception of our 24-hour study space, which is still available. We've already had some online tutoring available starting this fall, or this past fall. We had a couple of select subjects. We were kind of just trying it out, actually. And now we've expanded all tutoring to be online. So it was actually a pretty quick transition for us, which meant that the tutors are really well equipped to do it. And they've been doing it for the last month with great success. So all tutoring is going to be online for the remainder of the term. We utilize a platform called GoBoard, which is an interactive Canvas. So it allows students to have sort of a video conference, kind of like Zoom. So you have, you can see the person, you can talk to them. There's also a chat function, but it also has a shared Canvas where students can upload papers or assignments. They can even take a picture of a textbook and upload it really quickly just by texting it to a number. And then both the student and tutor can see the same document on that Canvas, and they can draw on it, write on it. There's a laser pointer, make shapes, all kinds of things. And I'll show you in a minute a very simple example that I made just to show you what it looks like. Because I think, you know, a lot of people think of online tutoring and it sounds a little bit, I mean, it's distant, obviously, physically you're distant, but I feel like you are able to get a pretty good connection with the person, because you can talk, you can see, and again, you can sort of have that shared experience of looking at the same thing at the same time, writing on it, and doing the same sorts of activities we would do normally in an in-person session. And after their sort of GoBoard session, students are sent a PDF of all of the pages so that they can go back and refer to it. So if they have, you know, if they went over something with their tutor, then they are studying later and would like to see it, they can always go back to the board, but they can also refer back to that PDF that they are emailed afterwards, which is just a really good reference tool. So to utilize GoBoard, I'm not going to go into it on my computer because, again, I'm not having good luck with technology today, but I do have a screenshot, so I'll show you. But what students need in order to access it: a computer or a tablet. It works really great with iPads. I know not everyone has an iPad. I certainly don't, but if your student has one of those, that's great, but also a regular computer works just fine. Internet, obviously, ideally a camera. If they don't have one, that's absolutely fine. And then headphones with a microphone. And those can be really helpful just for audio. Obviously, you can use it, without those things, but we actually are offering to buy students who don't have headphones with a microphone, who are utilizing tutoring, if they need that in order to make it a more optimal experience. We're purchasing them and sending them directly to students' homes. So if you have a student that falls into that category, they can simply email me, and there's a portion of our website that has information about that, which I'll show you in a moment, in order to contact me. Additionally, so under normal circumstances, again, we would generally finish tutoring on May 5th. So we usually finish right before the reading day, before finals, because our tutors are peers. They're also students. And so they need plenty of time to schedule or to study and prepare for their finals. And we like to give them that time. But since this year is not a normal year, we've actually expanded our hours through finals week. So we'll have some additional, they will be limited. It won't be every single regular tutoring hour, because not all tutors are available. But we will have some additional limited hours added through finals week, particularly with writing, which I think can be really helpful, since a lot of people will be writing final papers and putting the finishing touches on. So we'll have tutors available remotely all through finals week as well. So that's an important thing to remember. So if your student is struggling with finishing up or starting something for finals, there will be some support available for them that week. So this is just a screenshot, as I mentioned, of GoBoard. This is obviously something much more simple than what your students would probably be working on, but I wanted to just give an example of, a kind of worksheet or assignment that you could upload. You can see on there that I've written some guess answers, I've crossed some things out, I've circled something, I've made a little note about something that's been challenging for me. Most of the boards look much more exciting than this, but I'm not able to use an actual board from an actual student, so this is my sort of mock-up one. But you can see in the right-hand corner, that's where you'd see the tutor, and there are lots of different tools in here. Again, this is a very basic example, but there's a graphing calculator and all kinds of tools for science and math stuff, and it's actually pretty fun to use. And most of the tutors and students who have used it have liked it pretty well so far. So that's that. I just want to say a little note sort of about writing tutoring. So writing tutoring is really important. I think we can all use help with our writing at some point, or we've needed help with our writing at some point. I know that I certainly have. But I like to emphasize that tutors can really help at any stage of the writing process. So if your student is at the brainstorming phase, so they're just sort of figuring out what they want to write about, if they're having writer's block, if they are trying to figure out what topic they want to write on, a tutor can absolutely help with that. And it's actually a really great process, because they can meet with someone else who knows about writing, but who also can just bounce ideas off, and that person is kind of a neutral party, right? They can also help at the research stage. So if students need help searching for and evaluating sources, they can help with that. They can help with citations. They can help to clarify ideas. They can also help with the organization of a paper. So if someone has a bunch of ideas, but they're not sure if it's flowing well, the tutor can help them work on that. And then with revision. So, and that's the one that I like to emphasize, because often what will happen is there's kind of a disconnect, I guess, with what tutors can and can't do. And we've had on occasion students come and hope that the tutor can just edit their paper or proofread their paper. And unfortunately, that's not something that the tutors can really do. You may know that being an editor or proofreader is actually like a highly skilled profession. Our tutors are wonderful writers, and some of them are going into those types of professions, but they're not actually trained for that. What they are trained to do is to help students learn how to kind of edit their own papers, and those tutors will work with them on it. So it helps, again, to provide that long-term assistance for future courses and, life, having to write. The writing help that we can offer really applies to writing for any course. So lab reports, we have people who come for help writing their lab reports, for longer research papers, and really anything in between. So the writing tutors actually receive extra training specifically to be able to help students across all disciplines. So it really doesn't matter what type of writing it is. They can really help with any of that. And again, I think it's a really great thing to be able to start your writing process with a tutor and work with them throughout it. So, an ideal situation, and we've had plenty of students do this in the last semester and in the fall, is to, meet with a tutor at the brainstorming process or at the brainstorming stage, and then throughout their process, sort of check in every couple of weeks or every week as needed to sort of move through the writing process with that kind of support. It can be really helpful. And again, it goes back to, we're not always necessarily given the college level writing skills. We don't necessarily come to college with the writing skills that that one would hope or one expects. And so it can be really helpful to have someone there to help guide you through what that actually looks like, because, especially for a first year or second year student, it can be a little bit challenging to sort of transition from high school type of writing to college writing. So I just wanted to also talk about some additional resources. So I have our website listed here. I'll put it in the chat once I'm finished talking so that you can have the link to it, unless Lindsay or Justin does that before me. But we have a lot of resources on our website. So we have an entire page for learning and study strategy resources. On that page, I think the notable thing, especially since we're coming up on finals, we have a series. We didn't make it, we've just linked to it, but it's a wonderful series, and it's some people who specialize in education and psychology. They basically have a whole series on learning how to study using scientifically researched methods. So a lot of what students think, and I know that I thought this when I was a student, is that cramming is the best way to study. Staying up all night, studying for 6 hours straight. I can't think of any other great examples, but lots of things that we tend to think are going to really benefit us and lead us to success on our exams are actually the exact opposite of what actually works. And so I won't go into too much depth about that, but if you visit our Learning and Study Strategy resources page, you'll see there's a couple of different strategies that I highlighted and linked to, and they really do a great job of illustrating and walking students through how they can implement those strategies. And I know we're all under a lot of extra stress and everything right now. So even students who potentially had really good study strategies under their belt might benefit from actually kind of revisiting that and seeing, what might work for them, again, in a completely different and new context. So I would highly recommend that. We also have a writing resources page, which again is not in-house materials, but it links out to lots of different reputable resources for all kinds of different writing issues. So things like proofreading, things like citations, things like writing a thesis statement, anything like that. So again, if you are with a student who is struggling with their writing in any way, I would say obviously I think setting up an appointment would be helpful, but also reviewing those resources can be really helpful. In addition, we have a tab for tutoring, and this is where a lot of this lives on our website. We have tutor-created study guides. So when the tutors aren't working directly with a student, they're also creating guides for students to use when they're not in appointment. So we don't have all of them up yet. This is a new thing we started this year, but there are study guides that are related to specific courses at Pacific. And those were made by tutors and reviewed by tutors and then reviewed by me and then added online so that students can have some course-specific guides, and again, specifically for the courses that they're taking at Pacific. There's also additional information about making appointments and kind of what to expect in a tutoring session. I think a lot of students who haven't utilized tutoring before don't really know what it will look like, and maybe they have some preconceived notions of what it will look like. And so it's not an exhaustive list or anything, but it's a few snippets that kind of let the student know what to expect and how to best prepare for their session. There's also a page for meeting the tutors, which I think is really useful. You can go through and scroll through and see who the person is you might be meeting with. And I think some students have found that really helpful to sort of make it a little less scary to just meet with someone that, maybe they haven't met on campus before. And then the last thing is just making an appointment. So visiting our website is the best way to do that. Our schedule is available online. And we actually also have instructions on our website for how to make an appointment. It's an online system. It's not super sleek, but it's really useful and it's not too difficult to use. Again, if you need assistance with it, I'm happy to help with that. But there's also written out instructions that are step-by-step for how to go and search the schedule and find out who's available for the course that you're looking for and when, and how to do that and how to make the appointment. So that's kind of the end of what I wanted to talk about with tutoring. And if, again, at the end, if you all have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I could talk about tutoring for a really long time, but I don't want to take up all of your time. And also I want to leave some of that to you to explore on your own, or to encourage your students to explore on their own if they're interested. You know, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm the student success librarian. So tutoring is just one portion of what I do at Pacific. And you know, as a librarian, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about all the other wonderful things that we're doing that I think really tie pretty well in with kind of our theme of supporting students with remote learning. So we have a couple of options for remote library support for students. We have an Ask the Library chat, which is basically a live chat with staff members. I'm usually on it, in addition to a bunch of other people. And we're available, generally speaking, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and then Saturday and Sunday, 12 to 8. And during that time, there's a little chat bubble on our website. And there's also, I will send the link in the chat for this as well. We have a page specifically dedicated to just getting library help. So it directs you right to the chat. You can also get our main email address there, and also our phone number if you needed to call. But you know, it's great if students have questions about finding resources. If they have a question about returning books, we've gotten a lot of questions about that. Staff is available to answer those questions live. And if we don't have the answer, we have the ability to transfer you to someone who does. And we'll always refer you to someone who does, and make sure that that person follows up and lets the student know how they can help. And again, it's really for any kind of question. So it's not limited to just, you know, a big research question or anything like that. It can be really any kind of question. If you're having trouble logging in and getting access to articles, you should never pay for articles. We have access to many, and we can get free access to any that we don't. And so, you know, any assistance that a student needs with that, we're happy to help. And then we also can do more in-depth research consultations. So if you have a student who's working on a really long final paper, or any kind of research work that they need to do that they're having trouble with, doing like effective library research is really challenging. And it's challenging at all levels, at the graduate level, at the undergraduate level. I think anywhere you go, it's a lot to look at. There's a lot going on. And so we can also do more in-depth consultations via Zoom. We can also do phone or email. We can also do them on chat, but I think, you know, especially if it's going to be like you know, we usually do half-hour, 45-minute consultations. Zoom can sometimes be a better fit for that, but it's really whatever the student is comfortable with. So yeah, so anything where a student needs additional help finding resources, wading through all the resources and figuring out what would be best, or even just finding direction for their research, we are more than happy to help. And you know, the easiest way to get started is just to chat with us during our open hours, or just send us an email if it's off hours, and we'll respond to you the next morning immediately and point you in the right direction if we can't help the person who answers it. So that's kind of how to get in touch with us and how we can answer any questions. The big thing is resources, right? So at present, as I mentioned, our facilities that are holding all of our precious books and other physical resources are closed. So you may be wondering, how can you get access to books or articles or other materials that students might need for finishing up the term? Again, there's probably, I would imagine, a lot of, you know, end of term papers that are being written, and we hope that they're not, but hopefully students aren't panicking because we can help. So that's kind of the main thing there. So there's a few different options. Students can make a request for items from us that we don't have. So if we already have, as I mentioned, pretty robust databases with lots of articles and things like that. But of course, there's way more than that out in the world, right? There are print books that aren't available electronically. There are all kinds of things. So what we normally do is we borrow from other libraries when we can, using interlibrary loan, where we lend to them and they lend to us, and that way everyone can kind of share all of the resources that are out there in the world. So that's been adjusted slightly, obviously, since not everything is available, because a lot of libraries are closed and not loaning at this time. And we're not loaning our physical materials at this time because it's not safe to do so. But we do our best to sort of meet all the requests that we receive. So requests that are made for articles and book chapters, if we can't fill them from another library electronically, we still use interlibrary loan for that. We purchase the article or book chapter for the student and email it to them, and then it's just theirs to use. So it's basically digital delivery of an article or book chapter that a student needs that they can't find for free online. Some things obviously are only available in print, and those things are a little bit more challenging, but what we're doing now is we will ship a resource directly to your home. So if a student needs a book and we are not able to find it electronically, we will purchase it and have it shipped directly to you. What we're doing right now, since everyone is remote for the foreseeable future, if the resource is under $15, you can just, or under $50, I'm sorry, the student can just keep it. It's theirs, that's fine. For physical resources that cost more than $50, so again, physical resources usually being books, if we're unable to get that, again, as an e-resource or an electronic resource, we will basically provide you with the material, we'll ship it to your home, and we'll have it kind of eventually returnable. So ideally, the student would return the item when the library opens, either in person if they're coming back to campus, or via mail with like a prepaid return. We would send you an envelope or something, and you could just ship it back to us. So again, it's a pretty easy way to get access to pretty much any print materials that you need. Obviously, the end of the semester is coming up pretty quickly. So if you are working with a student or have a student who is in need of any sort of research materials, I would encourage you to encourage them to sort of look into what they might need now. That way they can put those orders in, and, you know, we work really quickly, and, you know, the turnaround time for digital delivery can be really fast, you know, a couple hours. Again, it just depends on the resource and how we can get access to it. Print resources obviously are a little bit slower, but the turnaround time is very quick, but obviously you wouldn't want to push it right up to the last minute for finals that are looming ahead. And then the last thing is we kind of always do all of these things just in different ways. But the last one is we buy ebooks and streaming videos on request. So under normal circumstances, when we're in person, we buy anything at request. So if a student would like or thinks that we should purchase a book for the library, we will purchase it, and the student can be the first person to check it out. They get a notification when it comes in. And again, that's items under $50, so it doesn't include textbooks because textbooks are just challenging and they change every year and they're very expensive. But for other types of materials, we do that. So now we've kind of transferred to an electronic version of that. So if someone is in need of an ebook or a streaming video, they can put in a request, and we will fill it for them if possible, again. And we will basically follow up with you and let you know when it's available and send you the link to it so you can access it. So I know it can feel a little bit shaky for some that our whole library is closed, but just rest assured that all of the librarians and all the library staff are working hard behind the scenes and from home to sort of make sure that we can do all of the same things, and actually in some cases, you know, go beyond what we normally do in order to make sure that everyone feels supported and has the resources that they need in order to sort of finish the semester strong and get all of their work done as needed. Again, understanding that, you know, it's a challenging time. So again, I'll put the link in the chat when I'm finished talking so that you'll have that. So you can, you know, provide that to your student and let them know what's available. And it's all sort of outlined on our website, but I just thought it would be important to let you know that, you know, if you have a student that's upset that they can't find what they need, we are here to help them find it and also get it and send it to them, and they can keep it in some cases. So just keep that in mind. So that's pretty much all I had to say. I didn't want to, again, take up the full time, but I just wanted to sort of wrap up with a couple of thoughts or suggestions, I guess. The first one is to just check our website. So we have, as I mentioned, we have tutoring available online. Again, we have hours from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursdays. And again, we will have some extended hours during finals week. So just encourage, if you have a student who is struggling or who just wants a study partner for a final, they can make an appointment with a tutor, and that's what the tutors do, and they are great at it and they enjoy it, and they'd be happy to meet with them. So I would just encourage your students to utilize that, and especially thinking about writing tutoring, again, as we sort of finish up the year in unusual circumstances. I think it can be in some ways a little bit more difficult to sort of get started writing that big paper. I know I've had some things to write that I've struggled with kind of getting going on. So I think, you know, just setting up that meeting with a tutor can be really helpful, just sort of jumpstart you on your way. So just check our website for that. And again, refer back to those learning and study strategies and writing strategies as resources that are also available all the time. So not even, you know, outside of the hours when we have tutors available. And I guess the other thing is really just to contact us for help. So we're here to support students. That's what we do. That's our whole job. So please let us know if there's anything else we can do. You know, ask your students to chat with us. I'm going to include my email address at the end of this. So you're welcome to email me if you have questions or concerns or ideas for other things that we can do. We've been working really hard to make sure that we're meeting all the need, but you know, we can't anticipate every single need. So if you have a specific one, just let us know and we'll do our best to help. And then if, again, you know, request any resources that your student needs that we don't already have. We are happy to help with that in any way we can. And as I said, the turnaround time is usually pretty quick, but I would encourage that, you know, to do sooner rather than later, just so that the students have as much time as possible to prep and finish finals on a high note. So those are all my slides. Again, this is my contact information. Please feel free to take it down. And you can contact me in any way that you'd like to if you are interested. You can also obviously give this to your students, and it's also all on all of our tutoring websites. So you can find it there as well. But if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Josie, thanks for all of that information. It's really helpful, and it's good to know about the spread of and the breadth of what the library offers. You did mention, you know, as finals are coming up, and a little bit about motivation. Do you have any suggestions for parents or family members to help support their students who are kind of struggling with the motivation, or just trying to finish out this semester and finals?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think one of the, well, yes, I do. I think something to keep in mind is, and it kind of goes back to the study strategies. You can tell it's the end of the day. I've been in a lot of meetings today, so pardon my jumbling of words, but I think it goes back to the study strategies, where kind of understanding that you can make a really doable plan to get your things done. So obviously I think those strategies work under regular circumstances and can be really helpful, but I think they can be especially helpful now when it feels, I mean, everyone's having different experiences, right? But it can feel really like an arduous task to do pretty simple things. I know that I've experienced a bit of that. And I think breaking those tasks down into smaller pieces can be really helpful to help students feel like it's a little bit more manageable. And that's part of the study strategy of sort of spacing out your studying and your learning, where, you know, a lot of students think, oh, if I cram for 6 hours before this final, I'll know everything. Well, actually you won't, and you won't know it later either when you need it. But if you can, you know, break that up into a couple 30-minute sessions throughout the day, broken up with something like taking a walk or having a snack or resting or doing whatever they need to do to take care of themselves, I think can be really beneficial. As far as motivation goes, I mean, I think that's really challenging. Again, I think just being able to see the smaller pieces that are a part of a bigger whole can be helpful, because it doesn't feel as, you know, as much of a huge undoable thing to study or finish your last assignments when they are broken down into like small pieces that you can do on a daily basis, or, you know, depending on the assignment, obviously. It varies, but I think breaking it down and just having kind of, you know, not necessarily a strict schedule, because that doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but just sort of a framework for how you can approach studying or approach working on something that is a little bit more broken up and takes into account the fact that, you know, we should all be taking care of ourselves all the time, but especially at a time like this, you know, it's hard to stay motivated and focused. And I think breaking up our time with other things that can really kind of nourish us and help us feel good can go a really long way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If other folks have questions, please put them into the chat box.
Thank you so much, Josie. This was super helpful.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Take that off. Now I'm gonna screen share this again. Where did it go? right here. Oh, we are learning so very, very much about all of our technology. Okay. So again, Lindsay put this in the chat box for you to have there. We just wanted to remind everybody that on the Pacific website is the coronavirus specific information. We also have it on the Student Life website with additional COVID-19 resources. And then the Center for Learning and Student Success, we actually had the smaller version that was put into the chat, but here's also another place that you can go to receive that information. So the tip for the week. I really would love for you all to celebrate your students' accomplishments. Many of them are doing presentations that guests can attend. That's one of the new benefits and opportunities that I think has come out of this, is allowing for guests and family members and staff to be able to see some of those presentations. I was lucky enough yesterday to attend one of my students' presentations that I've worked with for 3 years, to watch his senior thesis and the rest of that group. So ask your student if they have any presentations that are coming up, or if they have friends' presentations that are coming up that you could just join as part of the audience. I know it's really been beneficial for our students to have people involved in these. So I just wanted to share with you kind of a funny thing that happened in my household the other day. My son went to the store to get some hand sanitizer for his grandparents, and he came home with this. So you just never know. Sometimes you just need to read labels a little more. I really thought he was bringing me a thing of oil, and no, it is hand sanitizer. So Justin, are there any more questions in the chat room?
Not that I've seen.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Next week will be the final Family and Support System chat. We will be joined by the Student Counseling Center and 3 of their staff members to just talk about managing stress through finals as we head into the summer and how things start to transition with the COVID-19 and transitioning back in the fall. So we're super excited for them to join us and give us some of those strategies. And we thank you all for joining us. One last thing I wanted to mention is we are working to get these videos up online. It's been a very interesting time as we all are working towards figuring out new technology and ways to get things up and on there. So I'm hoping by next week we will have that available for you to view, all of the family and support chats that we have hosted. If you have any additional questions, you're always welcome to go to the Student Life webpage, and on the bottom left-hand side, I believe, is where you can send us a question, or if you have a concern about a student, please submit it there. So until next week, we will